A Desertion by Stephen Crane. Short stories. The gas light that came with an effect of difficulty through the dust-strained window on either side of the door gave strange hues to the faces and forms of the three women who stood gabbling in the hallway of the tenement. They made rapid gestures in the background, their enormous shadows mingled in terrific effect. Aye, she ain't so good as she thinks she is. I'll bet he can watch over and take all and pleases. But when she wants to fool him, she'll fool him, and how does he know she ain't fooling him now? Oh, he thinks he's keeping her from going to the bad, he does. Oh, yeah, he says she purty and brown alone. Her too purty, my Sadie. Well, he keeps a close watch on you bet. Only last week she met my boy Tim on the stairs, and Tim hadn't said two words to her before the old man begun to holler, "Daughter, daughter, come here, daughter, come here." At this moment a young girl entered from the street, and it was evident from the injured expressions suddenly assumed by the three gossipers that she had been the object of their discussion. She passed them with a slight nod, and they swung about in a row to stare after her. On her way up the long flights the girl unfastened her veil. One could then clearly see the beauty of her eyes, but there was in them a certain furtiveness that came near to marring the effect. It was a peculiar fixture of gaze, brought from the street as of one who there saw a succession of passing dangers, with menaces aligned at every corner. On the top floor she pushed open a door, and then paused on the threshold, confronting an interior that appeared black and flat like a curtain. Perhaps some girlish idea of the hobgoblins assailed her then, for she called, in a little breathless voice, "Daddy!" There was no reply. The fire in the cooking stove in the room crackled at spasmodic intervals. One lid was misplaced, and the girl could now see that this fact created a little flushed crescent upon the ceiling. Also a series of tiny windows in the stove caused patches of red upon the floor. Otherwise the room was heavily draped with shadows. The girl called again, "Daddy!" Yet there was no reply. "Oh, Daddy!" Presently she laughed, as one familiar with the humours of an old man. "Oh, I guess you're cussing mad about your supper, Dad," she said, and she also almost entered the room, but suddenly faltered, overcome by a feminine instinct to fly from this black interior, peopled with imagined dangers. Again she called, "Daddy!" Her voice had an accent of appeal. It was as if she knew she was foolish, but yet felt obliged to insist upon being reassured. "Oh, Daddy!" Of a sudden a cry of relief, a feminine announcement that the stars still hung, burst from her, for according to some mystic process the smouldering coals of the fire went aflame with sudden fierce brilliance, splashing parts of the walls, the floor, the crude furniture with a hue of blood red, and in this dramatic outburst of the light the girl saw her father seated at a table with his back turned toward her. She entered the room then with an aggrieved air, her logic evidently concluding that somebody was to blame for her nervous fright. "Oh, you're only sulking but your supper. I thought maybe you'd gone somewheres." Her father made no reply. She went over to a shelf in the corner, and taking a little lamp she lit it, and put it where she would give her light as she took off her hat and jacket in front of a tiny mirror. Presently she began to bustle among the cooking utensils that were crowded into the sink, and as she worked she rattled talk at her father, apparently disdaining his mood. "I'd come earlier to-night, Dad, only that fly foreman he kept me in the shop till 6:30. What a fool! He came to me, you know. He says, 'Nell, I want to give ye some brotherly advice.' Oh, I know him and his brotherly advice. Yeah, too purty, Nell. He says, 'It be working in this shop and parading through the streets alone without somebody to give ye good brotherly advice. And I wanna warn ya, Nell, I'm a bad man, but I ain't as bad as some, and I wanna warn ya. Oh, get along 'bout your business,' I said. 'I know him, he's he's a slayer, I know him. You glong about your business,' and says, well, he said after a wary guess, some evening he come up and see me. 'Oh, yeah, well,' I says, 'yeah, well, Well, you let my old man catch you coming falling round our place. Yeah, wish you went to other girl, give brotherly advice. What the hell do you care for father? He said, what to me? If he throws you down the stairs, you care for him. And I said, well, he said, I come and he ain't in. Oh, he's a lass when he comes talking and caring me. Don't you forget it. Either when he comes to taking care of a daughter, he's right on the deck every single possible time. After a time, she turned and addressed cheery words to the old man. Hurry up to father, daddy. We'll have supper pretty soon. But still father was silent, and his form in its sullen posture was motionless. At this, the girl seemed in need of inauguration of a feminine war against a man out of temper. She approached him, breathing soft, coaxing syllables. Daddy, oh daddy, oh daddy! It was apparent from a subtle quality of valour in her tones that this manner of onslaught upon his moods had usually been successful, but tonight it had no quick effect. The words coming from her lips were like the refrain of an old ballad, but the man remained stolid. Daddy, my daddy, oh daddy, are you mad at me, really truly mad at me? She touched him lightly upon the arm. Should he have turned then, he would have seen the fresh laughing face with dew-sparkling eyes close to his own. Oh daddy, my daddy, pretty daddy. She stole her arm around his neck and then slowly bended her face towards his. It was the action of a queen. Who knows she reigns, notwithstanding irritations, trials, tempests. But suddenly, from this position, she leapt backward with the mad energy of a frightened colt. Her face was in this instant turned to a grey, featureless thing of horror. A yell, wild and hoarse as a brute cry, burst from her. Daddy! She flung herself to a place near the door, where she remained, crouching, her eyes staring at the motionless figure. Splattered by the quivering flashes from the fire, her arms extended and her frantic fingers at once besought and repelled. There was in them an expression of eagerness to caress and an expression of the most intense loathing. And the girl's hair, that had been a splendour, and in these moments changed to a disordered mass that hung and swayed in witch-like fashion. Again a cry burst from her. It was more than a shriek of agony. It was direct, personal, addressed to him in the chair. The first word of a tragic conversation with the dead. It seemed that when she had put her arm about his neck, she had jostled the body in such a way that now she and it were face to face. The attitude expressed an intention of rising from the table. The eyes fixed upon her were filled with an unspeakable hatred. The cries of the girl aroused thunders in the tenement. There was a loud slamming of doors, and presently there was a roar of feet upon the boards of the stairway. Voices rang out sharply. What is it? What's the matter? He's killing her! Slug him with anything you can, Lee. Hold her, Jack. But over all this came the shrill, shrewish tones of a woman. Ah, the fool. He's driven her in the street. That's what he's doing. He's driving her into the street. 1893, Harper's Magazine, Volume 101, November 1900, pp. 938939.